Hello, everyone. I'm Pia Nada, and you're watching Rappler Talk Newsmaker. Today, we have with us Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon. We know him as one of the most compelling voices in the Senate hearings on pandemic procurements by the government. And so, we're here to talk to him about what's been happening at the hearings. And also, because he is retiring from politics, he said so himself, we will also want to be asking him about, his long view of his time in the Senate. So, welcome, Senator.
Good morning, Pia. Thank you for having me on your show today.
All right. So, Senator, let's start with the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearings. We have had 11 so far. They are very complex. We want Filipinos to understand the meat of them. What for you are the most alarming findings of the committee, which Filipinos should take note of, especially given the government statements like they're saying wala naman daw overpriced PPEs, everything that was legal under Bayanihan 1, and understandable daw yung mga nangyari because our government was in a rush to buy these medical supplies at the time. So what can you say to this, and what are the most alarming findings so far?
The most alarming finding is the fact that here is a company capitalized at 625,000 pesos, awarded contracts totaling over 10 billion. Clearly, this is favoritism. The chosen supplier was favored, and this is in gross violation of the anti-graft and corrupt practices law, which specifically penalizes acts of granting favors or partiality to someone who is engaging the government in some business transaction. And this is exactly what we are looking at: 625,000 pesos in capital, awarded over 10 billion. Now, no matter how you look at it, the government was exposed to the danger of the contract not being executed, and if so, you cannot run after this family because they are only capitalized at 625,000 pesos, and they were formed 6 months before the award was made. No record whatsoever in contravention to certain basic requirements under the procurement law, like having an income tax return. It was not on record. It was not submitted. It was submitted only after the award was made. That is on record. So there are a lot of violations that happened, and therefore there is basis to charge these people under the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practice Act. Moreover, it doesn't take much intelligence. Secretary Duque transfers 42 billion from his budget to the procurement service of DBM without even any documentation. An ordinary prudence would dictate that you protect the funds. You have a memorandum of agreement, which is required by law, in order that you can trace where the money went. So and therefore, this gave an opportunity to PSDBM, led by Undersecretary Lau, to commit all the violations, all the corruption that we have seen in the course of our investigation. Pia?
Okay, so Senator, many people rin kasi are watching the Senate hearings because they're trying to see if there's a link to the president. We know that this issue is bigger than all the issues we've seen in the past years of the president because may mga tao dito na may direct link sa kanya. So far, you personally, are you satisfied with the link that the Senate hearings have established between Duterte and these Pharmally contracts?
Well, in fairness, we still have to get evidence on that point. But what is clear is that Michael Young was his economic advisor, very close to him, very close to the president. That is not denied. Now, Michael Young, the reason why Lincoln Ong was declared in contempt because he refuses to answer the question, what was the participation of Michael Young here? And I myself specifically asked him, how much he admitted or as Lincoln Ong admitted that Michael Young helped them secure these contracts, secure the supplies. I asked him specifically in what form was the help extended. He said financially. How much did he extend? He now refuses to answer that, and it is for that reason that he has been held in contempt. So the effort to cover up and protect Michael Young is very evident.
Mhm. And so far, no, we've seen the government somehow respond to the findings of the Senate hearing. For example, the DOH just a few days ago halted the further deliveries of Pharmally face shields because of may lumabas nga na possible tampering of those face shields. And then we know that the ombudsman has also opened an inquiry. Are you satisfied with how the executive branch has dealt with the findings? And what do you think should they do aside from this?
Firstly, they should withdraw that memorandum order which banned the officials and employees of the executive branch from appearing in the hearings. In the first place, that memorandum dated October 4, 2021 is patently unconstitutional. I have not seen a more unconstitutional issuance than what I see in this memorandum. Therefore, that is the first thing that they can do so that we can continue to unravel the truth. The witnesses stonewalled, particularly Lincoln Ong, on how much Michael Young helped, the amount that that he extended, and suddenly the president issues executive order, which is patently unconstitutional, but which barred of officials of the executive department from appearing. This, I repeat, this memorandum order dated October 4 is patently unconstitutional, as it directed all officials no longer to appear in the Senate. This is as early as 1950. In the case of Arnold versus Nazareno, 1950 PM, over 70 years ago, the Supreme Court already ruled that that the Congress has the power to subpoena and compel the giving of the testimony in the legislature. And in 2006, as Senate President, I brought EO 464, issued by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and questioned it before the Supreme Court. In the decision, which is entitled Senate versus Ermita, the Supreme Court ruled that the executive cannot prevent the appearance of executive officials before the inquiry in the Senate, except what it involves national security, what it involves diplomatic secrets, and military secrets, or conversations with the president. I don't think any of this is present in these proceedings, and that is why the issuance of that executive order is patently unconstitutional.
But Senator,
Yeah.
what happens if they continue to refuse? Because we know that possibly yun, Duterte could really just
Yes,
double down
yes,
and not move
yes,
on. So what will the Senate
yes.
do? You mentioned before you think this should be brought to the Supreme Court. Has there been any momentum to that call so far?
I do not know. I have urged the Senate President and the Chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee, Senator Gordon, to bring this to the Supreme Court. I have no personality to bring it to the Supreme Court because I cannot represent the Senate nor the Blue Ribbon Committee. In other words, there is that technical issue of the personality of the technically of Senator Drilon as minority leader to bring the issue to the Supreme Court. It must be either the Senate President or the Chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee, because it is the institution either of the Senate and the Blue Ribbon which are affected by this executive order. And therefore, I urge Senate President Soto and or Senator Gordon to go to the Supreme Court. We have done this before, Pia, when we went to the Supreme Court. The case is still pending there to question the validity of the termination of the visiting forces agreement. So it is not new. It is something that we have done. In 2006, as I said, I brought myself the issue of EO 464 to the Supreme Court and sought an interpretation. This is our system. Where there is a conflict between the two branches of government, in this particular case, the executive and the legislature, the Supreme Court acts as the arbiter under our system. And therefore, it is completely valid and it is completely proper to bring this matter to the Supreme Court so it can be finally decided. And I'm certain that the Supreme Court will strike down this memorandum order as patently unconstitutional.
But has there been any willingness on the side of the Senate President or Senator Dick Gordon to craft such a complaint before the Supreme Court?
I have not noted any. I am sure that they're considering this very seriously because this involves the institution of the Senate and its relation with the executive branch. This must be settled by ruling of the Supreme Court. This cannot be allowed to stand because otherwise this becomes a precedent for future action and future relations. Absolutely unacceptable to me as a lawyer.
And then see Justice Secretary Menor de Guevara naman, may rejoinder to what you said. And he actually defended the memo saying that it's just the executive's way of protesting the manner by which the hearings are being conducted. He also asked for a compromise. Is the Senate willing to compromise? For example, yung time daw spent by executives in the hearings. And how so, if ever you would be willing to compromise?
Firstly, I cannot talk for the Senate. Only the Senate President, and in this particular case, Senator Gordon, can respond to that. But in terms of this being a form of protest, by goodness, Pia, there can be other forms of protest. We are political officers. Senator Gordon is a re-electionist. They can campaign against him because as a sign of protest. But do not violate the Constitution as a way of protesting. Unacceptable. That simply is not acceptable in our system. If there is something wrong with the way we have conducted ourselves, either they go to court, as it has happened before, when the Blue Ribbon investigations were brought before the Supreme Court, including the manner of questioning if they want to, and they're completely free, or they can take the political route and campaign against Senator Gordon in this coming election. But certainly banning officials of the executive branch from appearing is in violation of the Constitution, and it cannot certainly be considered simply as a protest. Totally unacceptable to me. That a compromise should be pursued. I have no problems with that as long as the constitutional principles of separation of powers, of the authority of Congress under the article under the Constitution to ask to invite or subpoena even members of the executive branch to appear is before Senate investigations or congressional investigation should be upheld. No compromises on that. But in others, I would recommend that we listen to them. But certain basic principles cannot be compromised.
On what aspects are you willing to compromise on, like the time? For example, gusto daw nila may time limit, yung hindi naman dapat whole day yung participation nila. On what level would you be willing to?
Well, I'm willing to listen and make our recommendations. Your suggestion that it be limited to, say, whatever number of hours, that's not impossible to do. So that we can set the time limit to inquiries on a particular schedule. But you cannot set the limit as to whether or not we should stop the investigation. That is a prerogative of Congress. Whether or not there are still matters that the senators or congressmen would want to inquire into, you cannot stop that. But to have the length of one session limited to X number of hours, I have no problem with that.
Mhm. We've also seen the House of Representatives tackle this issue, and a lot of people watching the two hearings, the Senate and the House, can't help but compare the way that the hearings are going, the line of questioning of the congressmen, congresswomen there. How would you describe the way the House is handling the family contracts?
Having been in the Senate for 24 years, almost 24 years, Pia, I honor parliamentary courtesy. We do not comment on the way the other house would proceed, and I wish that the House also will give us that same courtesy, the same parliamentary courtesy, which has been observed in Congress, in the Philippine legislature since I was there 24 years ago, and is observed in all legislative branches all over the world. I repeat, parliamentary courtesy would prevent me from making any comment on the way the House has conducted itself. But I also wish that the House will observe the same courtesies, Pia.
In what way are you saying that they're not observing the courtesy? In what way would that be?
Commenting on the way we conduct our hearings is a matter of courtesy that they should not do. Uh, uh, the critical criticism of the way we conduct our own business is a matter that is reserved to the Senate. We have the rules in the Senate which a senator is obliged to follow, and we are responsible to the Senate, not to the House, and to the public who voted us to office.
Were there any specific comments that you disagree with coming from any?
I think, Pia, you can read it in the papers and see. I could not. I do not have to state it here, but it's very obvious that they have breached parliamentary courtesies in the House.
All right. And last on this topic, Senator, no, you mentioned that today was supposed to be the 12th hearing, and you also said earlier that you are coming up with a partial report. But given the non-participation of executive branch officials, how many more committee hearings can Filipinos expect, and what can we expect after you talk about the partial report?
Well, firstly, you're correct, Pia. There is a partial report that is being crafted. We have gathered, I think, enough evidence on certain aspects of the investigation, and at this point, I must state that there are specific recommendations by no less than Senator Francis Tolentino, an ally of the administration, enumerated about 3 or 4 laws which must be amended or revised because of the findings or investigations that we conducted. So clearly, even an ally of the president, Senator Tolentino, has recognized that this investigation is in aid of legislation. So to me, that should settle the issue. But there are other issues that we want. Personally, for me, I cannot speak for the committee. For example, how in heaven's name were the Filipino suppliers excluded from these contracts? As far as we know, almost 80 to 90% of the contracts were awarded to foreigners, principally Chinese. Why was the Filipino contractors not given a preference? In fact, unfortunately, it is so sad to hear that one company was encouraged by DTI Secretary Lopez. He called it repurposing their manufacturing capacity. Instead of electronics, shift it face masks and face shields. I am particularly talking about a company called EMS.
Yes.
He repurposed his facilities. He bidded. He was the lowest bidder. He bidded for face mask, if I'm not mistaken, 13 pesos and 50 centavos, as against the purchases from Pharmally of 27, and contracted, I think, was awarded or was awarded about 100 million pieces of face mask at 13.50. But deliberately, what DBM did was to postpone the complete delivery. Only about 25% was allowed to be delivered at 13.50, and the remaining 74 or 75%, ang binayad ko ay 250 na lang. And therefore, this poor Filipino manufacturer, if I'm not mistaken, I think Mr. Bonarastas was his name, lost so much money. And here, I blame Secretary Lopez for not protecting the Filipino manufacturers. In fact, this is a violation of the law. Because under the law, a Filipino manufacturer is preferred to that of a foreign supplier, even if his contract is 15% higher than what is offered by a foreign company. And in this particular case, it is
Even on
so
the own
sad
one.
because these are foreign-based trading houses, trading corporations, and some, as I said at the start of this interview, one particular supplier was incorporated in Hong Kong 6 months before an award was made to that company, and it totals over 6 billion pesos. This is really sickening, Pia. This episode.
Mhm. Yes, Senator. I guess we'll really be waiting for the Senate hearings to find out more about this issue. But moving on to the second to the last part of our interview, sir, I want to ask you, Senator, also about your time in politics, because you said that you will be retiring after your current term ends in June 30, 2022. So, we want to know also if you've had over your 2 decades in the Senate, you've been working with different presidents. How would you describe the working relationship between Duterte in particular and the Senate?
Well, the current administration is a challenge to the Senate because the Senate, by history, has always been independent and asserted its independence vis-a-vis the executive branch, more than the House of Representatives. The Senate has always been in the forefront of maintaining the check and balance set up in our system of government, and therefore maintain its independence. The Senate, just focusing on this term of President Duterte, has been challenging. To start with, a colleague of ours, Senator Laila de Lima, was imprisoned at the start of her term. Senator Trillanes, the rebellion charges against him were revived. So these are challenges to the independence of the Senate, and the Senate has stood its ground. And today, as we talk, of course, this memorandum order is again a challenge on the independence of the Senate. So, on the other hand, the Senate has done its share in seeing to it that the appropriate legislation for the public good has been pursued. I myself pushed a number of laws, even if I'm in the opposition. For example, we passed the revised corporation code, which I authored and wrote in order to make our business environment more competitive. Recently, the Senate passed the Liberalization of the Retail Trade Act, which again is under my authorship. We are now debating on the amendments to the Public Service Act. All of these laws is to make us improve our standing in the international community from the business and investment point of view. Where in the latest report, we are the last. We are the least competitive of the 14 countries in the Asian region. We are the least competitive in terms of being an attractive destination for foreign direct investments and therefore employment generation. We also passed Bayanihan 1 and 2 in order to respond to the pandemic that has visited us. Unfortunately, I have a lot to say about the way with which the administration has responded to this pandemic. That is why up to today, we find ourselves in extremely difficult position, and we are among the last to be able to recover and bring back our economy to what it was in 2019 or pre-pandemic. In the meantime, in August, we had the highest unemployment rate of 8.1%, the highest in probably the last 25 years. So we are in a very difficult. The challenges to the legislature is very clear. We have responded to the challenges, both in terms of maintaining our independence and providing and helping in legislation in order to help us recover from this pandemic that our people are suffering now.
Senator, would you also say, though, that there were some failings, especially in the early years of the Duterte administration? Because, for example, when it came to the drug war probe, right, that was led by Senator De Lima, nothing happened to it, diba? It just, kumbaga, parang si De Lima was ousted from her chairmanship of that committee, and some senators were actually wanting to file ethics complaints against her. In those years, do you think that the Senate could have done more about that probe, for example, into the EJ case in Davao City and in the presidency?
I would rather defer answering that question, Pia. I have answered all your questions. That particular question, I would beg to defer and not comment on.
What lessons can the Senate as an institution take from the Duterte presidency?
That is that for the sake of our democracy and a democratic way of life, the Senate must remain independent. It is natural for the executive branch or for any president for that matter, not only this president, to try to assert its authority and its power. And it is up to the Senate to be able to maintain the system of check and balance and an independent legislature in order to be able to preserve our democratic system of government.
All right. Last few questions, Senator. These were just sent in by my desk. They want me to ask you also about politics. Since this is your last stint, right? You're helping Vice President Leni Robredo with her campaign, and this will be your last, basically, hurrah in national politics. If you will certainly retire, and you'll be helping in the elections. You were one of her closest advisors, and people also want to know what led her and Liberal Party stalwarts to agree that it would be best for VP Leni to run as an independent.
Again, there are certain conversations and decisions that we have made that I would rather not talk about publicly, especially at this time when we're still campaigning for the presidency with Leni. But let me tell you that Vice President Leni wants to be all inclusive. She wants to be to as much as possible respond to the needs of our people, particularly those in the fringes of our society. You recall that when she first came to office, she emphasized that ibig po niyang tulungan yung mga nasalaylayan ng ating bansa, ng ating bayan, and therefore the campaign is focused along that line. I would rather not go into much detail at this point. There are certain issues which we would rather not discuss publicly. But yes, the Vice President has presented herself. This is the Vice President that and we believe has every quality of a leader, especially needed at this time of our history.
Mm. Si Isko Moreno kasi also commented before hitting her decision to run as an independent, saying it says something about her loyalty to her party. What would you say to such criticism?
Well, this is our party, not East Coast party. Whether or not the matters of loyalty to the party is a matter for the Liberal Party to determine, and we see no disloyalty there because the need of the country and our people is certainly on a higher plane than that of the political party. That is so basic in our principle of governance.
All right. And my last question for you, Senator, is something I hope you can use your years of experience in politics to maybe teach us, Filipinos a lesson, or maybe impart some observations about Philippine politics. What have you learned? What is the most important lesson you've learned in your over 20 years in politics from Philippine politics and from the leaders and the way our democracy and Philippine politics runs right now?
Well, I have a wish, and it's a wish that has caused frustration on my part because our politics today is popularity based. Just look at what has happened last week. The Our politics is shaped by whoever is popular, whatever is popular. Nothing to do with what the candidate stands for. Our political party system has to recover from where it was prior to martial law. Unfortunately, after 50 years, the destruction or the what President Marcos did to our political party system is still felt today. Before martial law, there was a very clear two-party system wherein the parties would vie for political power on the basis of the platforms that they have. Today, no such thing because starting 1972, our politics was shaped by whoever is in power, not on certain basic principles of governance, and that's what frustrates me as I leave public service.
Any specific doings or maybe laws you passed that you're particularly proud of? What legacy are you proud of, given all of these years that
Well,
you're
I am proud of the fact that I have I have uh, um, converted or put into the law certain policies that will improve the lives of our people, improving the economy, improving our investment climate, which today is very critical for employment, and that is where we lack today. Well, the 8.1% unemployment, the highest in 50 years, and consistently we have hordes of employable people leaving the country because of lack of opportunities here. That is what is frustrating, and that is why I have exerted every effort when I was up to now in order to be able to provide a better environment in order to create employment opportunities for our people.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator Drilon, for sharing your insights and your observations, especially about the Pharmally hearings. We will definitely be closely monitoring that. Any last words to say goodbye to our viewers?
No, I will not say goodbye yet. I still have a few months to go. You will still feel Senator Drilon in the campaign trail. I'm campaigning for Lenny. So
All right.
I
Thank
want
you.
to, yes, thank you very much, Pia.
Yes. And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again in the next episode of Rappler Talk Newsmaker. Goodbye.